One day you're directing a voice actor in the role of a Mandalorian. The next, you and that voice actor are teaming up to create an entire new galaxy of stories for Star Wars. They're the busiest people at Lucasfilm. You know them. You love them. Give it up for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni! That just happened. I think you guys are a little excited, huh? All right. Thank you guys for your excitement. I feel like you should bow.
Well, that's exciting.
That was so cool. Well, I told you guys it was gonna be good, and I don't like to fib, so here we go.
The cage.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, I have to ask, did you expect The Mandalorian to become such a global phenomenon?
Honestly, I was just happy to get to make Star Wars, you know? And Dave and I were working on it. It was a small project at the time because there were movies happening and there was a lot going on in Star Wars. And we were small and Disney Plus hadn't even launched yet. So we had no idea it would become such a big cultural presence. Especially the characters, especially, Mandalorian and Baby Yoda are everywhere. So I think we were really benefited from iconic characters, but I think also people really, it felt like people really connected with those characters at a time when, a lot of us were locked inside, we didn't have a lot to do, theaters were closed, and so these little stories started popping up in people's homes, and thank you to everybody here for signing up this is why we get to do what we love to do. So thank all of you.
Now, in this era of spoilers and leaks, how do you keep exciting reveals like, I don't know, Grogu, the return of Luke Skywalker? How do you keep those moments secret up until the moment they air?
It's really, really difficult. We don't even tell most everybody on set what's going on all the time. And that's not always as intentional. We come up with little code names and things. I think we think of how we would have felt deceived as fans ourselves and try to think like that. And smart a fox by being a fox, right?
It's like trying to wrap Christmas presents with everybody running around the house. So
and then we forget sometimes that people coming in, like Rosario, didn't even know that she was in a scene with Luke because we kept calling him Plo Koon, which...
That was his nickname.
When we made that the code, remember we thought, well, that makes sense because people think that I would bring him back because people know I like that character, but, but we didn't.
We even have, you could see some of the artwork, the production art. We wouldn't even have them draw Luke Skywalker in. We had them draw that.
We had these awesome paintings of Plo Koon. And I'm like, I only get to see this. No one else got to see this. We thought of putting them in, though, at one point.
We even had a CGI head from that character so that when you saw the dailies or the editing room, it looked like that was the characters. We actually paid for visual effects that we didn't use just to fool people who are working on the show.
I think that was well worth it, and there was a lot of surprise. Also, speaking of return characters, the hat is back.
Oh, well, I'm shooting now, so I wear this more when I'm
and just so you all know, Dave is actually just began the Ahsoka series. He's directing. So they're filming right now, and he drove all the way here, and as soon as he gets off stage here, I think you have one more panel, and then
Yes.
you go all the way back to Manhattan Beach to film.
I gotta be there. I gotta be there.
We couldn't miss this.
It's the most fun every day. I can't even tell you.
I will say, seeing the chair and the hat on it the other day
Cool.
was a very exciting moment. Now, if you had to pick, what is your favorite part about making Star Wars? Besides the fact that you're actually making Star Wars.
Yeah, that's hard. I don't know.
The answer's in the question.
I know.
I mean, it was, I was an usher in a movie theater when Return of the Jedi was in theaters, and I was there watching from the audience. And it's always something I loved and always worked its way into like little mentions and other things I've written or done. But just for all the stars to align that I would be able to write a story and that we would have a medium to do it in, and to have Kathy and everybody at Lucasfilm be open to me bringing an idea to them. And then also the big part is me and Dave getting to know each other. From all the way back at Skywalker Ranch when I was mixing Iron Man, he was making Clone Wars. And I was the first person not at Lucasfilm to see Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's right.
And I said, if you ever need an extra voice role, and that's how I ended up being a
put you right
Mandalorian.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the way to explain it for me is like, I sit down at a computer and I write a story. I write a moment. And I talk to Jon. I say, I think Ahsoka could know this kid's name because she would be able to speak somehow with him that only a Jedi could intuit. And then you write that scene, and there's trees and a creek, and Mando's there, and Grogu's there, and Ahsoka's there. And then you go over the costumes in great detail, and you talk about fabrics. You build this thing over several months leading up to a moment where you walk through the doors of a stage, and there's the forest, and there's the child, and there's Ahsoka, and she kneels down, and it's awesome. And I love it. And it's awesome. And it never stops being that awesome. And it's the whole crew, it's everybody involved. It's not just one person, because we know the only person it really was George. And he created this, and we get to play in it. And that is like, I think the spirit of everything we should be doing is, he's hopefully looking over all this and still guiding it, because he left us such a great galaxy to play in, and that's how I feel about it. So
It's a beautiful sandbox. Now, aside from your cameo, were there any other Filoni things that you've snuck into The Mandalorian, like you did with Rebels and the Space Wolves?
well, it's not really sneaking it in. The wolves were like right there, right? So I wasn't really snuck in. He thought it'd be really good for me to get on camera. I debated that because I'm like, I don't think the quality of the show goes up if I'm an X-Wing pilot. I think the quality of the show goes down. I told him I'd do it if Rick and Deb did it. So then it was the three of us, and I was joking, but he didn't think I was joking, and he held me to it. And now there are action figures that he makes me sign. He bought a whole case.
I got a whole case.
I'm like, what are you doing with that? He's like, I want you to sign it. This is for my future. I'm like, you don't even, what are you talking about?
Your
They've gone
nest
up
egg?
in value. Yeah. You think NFTs are good.
This is the definition of a peg warmer. I'm sorry, I just don't see it that way. But no, I mean, there's all kinds of little things here and there. There's one thing I do in particular that I don't think anyone will ever see, but a lot of my influence comes from obviously George, and then George's mentor is Akira Kurosawa. And so I've done a lot of study of that and talking with George about it. So I have a really small Akira Kurosawa figure, and he is in every episode I've directed somewhere in the set. And so I hide him in there and when we shoot an episode I'm directing, he's always right by the monitors to remind me of a lot of his principles of filmmaking that he gave to George. So he's kind of like another kind of influence on what I'm doing. But he's in there, but it'd be very hard to see him. And there are little Pittsburgh homages because I love my hometown. So you'll see little golden triangles here and there. And but the Penguins got eliminated, so it's kind of a bummer of a time. This is really helping lift
Listen,
me
half
up
this
to-
audience is going to go home and rewatch everything and look for that.
That's okay, but by the way, that works for us
Including
because it helps that Disney Plus thing, and we get to make more shows. So go rewatch it all you want. I'm all for that.
Now, how has your working dynamic changed since the early days of developing season 1?
Our dynamic.
Well, our dynamic hasn't changed much. It's just now we have so much more to do. So I was very spoiled in the beginning by having Dave. Anytime I wrote a scene or a half of a script or a script, I could send it to him. He'd call me right back. We'd talk about it. And now, because of the success of Star Wars on Disney Plus, Dave's now doing the Ahsoka show, and so now it's a sort of the reverse where he's writing stuff, sending it to me, I'm commenting on that. So it's a really interesting flip on it because now I'm starting to see the vision that he's come up with, not just over the last, over just these last few months, but for a decade as he's been dealing with these characters. So to see the fruition of those characters and to be able to talk to Dave, and now we have a shorthand because when he started off, he came out of animation. Now he's a very experienced live action director. And so now it's like director, writers, producers talking together about the best way to tell a story that's so personal to Dave.
Yeah.
I cannot put into words what an exciting moment this is for me as a human. And I just want to thank you both so much for taking time out of your...
Can I invite the people here to something? We just announced in the panel that there's something called the Mandalorian Experience. And we brought a lot of props and set pieces and droids down here, and it's free, and you could go to the Fairview Portals Instagram or the Star Wars Celebration app. If you're here, sorry people at home, but if you're here, you could go on down and check out all of our sets and costumes and everything. It's available to you.
Go do the thing. Again, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and spend time with me. And I will say thank you again.